You know, there's an opportunity for the Middle East to be reshaped. We know during his first administration, the Abraham Accords were a huge movement towards that. But there's no way to understand who's going to actually take control. And Donald Trump says it is not our fight. Let's stay out. And now we have all these factions and NATO member Turkey.
You've nailed this. Yeah, and so look, here's the reality. When President Trump saw the threat coming out of Syria, the death of children and women by chemical weapons, he didn't sit back and wait for action. He took action. In fact, I was the commander of the targeting unit that took those strikes in Syria to eliminate that threat. And the reality is both under the Obama and the Biden administration, there's been a lack of leadership in the area. But we have good allies like China, like Israel, who have fought to defend it and push out Russian and Chinese influence as well as Iranian influence in the region. And what we know right now is that the days ahead are up to the Syrian people on what they're going to do to reclaim their country. Israel has a right to defend itself in the Golan Heights, and certainly Turkey's playing a role here in the north. But we also have 900 U.S. combat forces, men and women, 3 of whom lost their life earlier this year when Vice President Harris said that we've got no combat forces in the area. Tell that tragically to those Gold Star families. Those 900 troops in Syria today need to come home. We have the ability to launch lethal strike if ISIS were to reemerge, as Trump was able to do during his term, as a time where I've flown combat operations, you know, in the Sinjar mountain range in northern Syria and flying recon operations off the coast of Syria. These are operations that we can do remotely. We don't need our men and women on the ground in the fight.
You know, Congressman, there is some talk about what these drones are in New Jersey, and we just had a reporter there, but there is these New Jersey drone sightings, and they're in, you know, very concerning places. What needs to be done right now to determine who's flying these? This seems like something that we should be all over.
Yeah, Bianca, you're absolutely right. Look, as an airborne operations officer, one of the things that we have looked at is how do we counter new technology, how do I identify it, and how do we prevent the threat from expanding in the area? These drones over New Jersey are only the latest in a series of threats to our national apparatus. And honestly, this is happening right here on U.S. soil. I am challenged by the fact that we have an administration that can't deal with emerging threats that are impacting everyday Americans, whether it's, you know, drones in New Jersey or this Salt Typhoon attack by Chinese actors on U.S. telecommunications. We have a host of immediately needed response actions, and the Biden administration and his bureaucrats have been asleep at the switch here. This is an area where not only defense expertise can help counter these drones, we have a responsibility to protect our local law enforcement, our local citizens in these areas who may be the victim of this type of pervasive surveillance.
Yeah, it seems like when it comes to surveillance that we've had somewhat of an administration issue, spy balloons flying over our country. And that is the outgoing president's legacy, despite what he wants to reshape it as.
And Bianca, you know, I just met with intelligence and FBI and CISA officials yesterday on what are we doing to respond to this. It can't just be a defense. We can't just put this on the American people to have to be able to protect themselves, particularly when they're on U.S. soil. And so with this cyber attack, much like you mentioned with the drone attack and the balloon overfly, these could be foreign hostile entities, particularly the Chinese People's Republic, or excuse me, Communist Party that has come in here trying to own this space. We need to push back. And it's one of the reasons I asked for a target list of the Ministry of Security state officials out of China and the Liberation Army who authorized this type of operation in the case of Salt Typhoon against our telcos, to hold them personally accountable for intruding into Americans. They've already gone after J.D. Vance. Now when they start targeting U.S. citizens, well, everyone in this administration has a responsibility to hold the Chinese accountable today.
Well, we appreciate your time. Obviously, those are serious issues, and the incoming administration will be tackling them, we know, very quickly. Congressman Zach Nunn of Iowa, thank you, sir.